The third program is ArcIC, or Arc Individual. This video will provide a description of ArcIC as well as some general guidance as to the situations in which it fits. ArcIC can be best thought of a whole farm insurance. It aggregates payments, guarantees, and revenues across all crops, and payments are calculated based on whole farm revenue. There isn't a premium to it, but it's still an insurance on the whole farm. It's based on farm yields, and the guarantees are calculated across all FSA farms enrolled in Arc Individual. If you have two FSA farms and they're both enrolled in Arc Individual, there will be one guarantee across both of those farms. All ArcIC farms in a state will be aggregated together. Planted acres are going to be used to determine weights in the benchmark revenue, and payments will be based on base acres times 0.65. The 0.65 differs from ArcCO and PLC, which is 0.85, and that difference of 0.65 rather than 0.85 reduces the attractiveness of Arc Individual. Arc Individual will make payments when farm's actual revenue falls below 86% of the benchmark revenue, because it's the farm's actual revenue, and by actual revenue we mean that is which is calculated based on the farm's yields, but it's still using market year average prices just like Arc County and PLC. And actual revenue will equal the sum of each crop's revenue. Again, it's the national market year average price times the farm yield. Benchmark revenue will equal sum of each crop's benchmark weight based on planted acres. I'm now going to give an example of Arc Individual. This is a 2014 example, and it's going to be for one FSA farm. We're not looking at multiples. There's 100 total base acres in that. And again, no other farm is enrolled in Arc Individual. This farm plants 60% of its acres in corn and 40% of its acres in wheat. The farm benchmark revenue will be an average, Olympic average, of the past 5 revenues from each crop. This slide shows the calculation of benchmark revenue for corn and for soybeans. The prices in this slide are market year average prices. The yields are farm yields. If a farm's enrolled in Arc Individual, the farmer or landowner will have to provide yields to FSA. And again, for this situation, they will have to have yields from 2009 through 2013, so those would have to be provided and certified to FSA. The revenue will equal the price times the farm yield. There is a limit to the lowest price, and that's the reference price, which in this example is $3.70 for corn, $8.40 for soybeans. Each crop will have a benchmark revenue. You can see the calculations there. It's $8.31 for corn, which is the Olympic average of 2009 through 2013 revenue for corn, and $6.81 for soybeans. The benchmark revenue will then be the weighted average of the corn and soybean benchmark revenues. Since in 2014 we planted 60% of our acres to corn, we take the corn benchmark revenue, $8.31 times 0.6. The soybean benchmark revenue is $6.81. We multiply that by 0.4 since 40% of the acres were planted in soybeans. That gives us a per acre benchmark of $7.71, and the guarantee will be 86% of that $7.71 benchmark. In 2014, if the market year average price for corn is $3.75, the farm has a 185 bushel per acre corn yield. Market year average price for soybeans is $11 and a 50 bushel per acre soybean yield. Revenue on this farm would be $636. And again, we're taking the benchmark or the market year average price times the yields, and we're weighting that by acres in each one of those crops. $636 is the revenue for this farm. The payment then will be the guarantee minus the revenue. In this case, it's $27 per acre, or it's $27 the rate, and that rate cannot be less than 0, and it can't be more than 10% of the benchmark revenue. So in this year, we would have $27 rate per acre. The $27 payment rate would be multiplied by 0.65 since we get paid on 65% of the base acres, and there's 100 base acres on this farm. So this 100-acre farm would receive a $1,755 payment. It's not likely that many farmers will choose to enroll in ARC Individual because of two drags. First, the whole farm nature of it causes it to be much harder to trigger a payment because when you average two crops together, the low years of one tend to offset the low years of other. They're not perfectly correlated. And ARC Individual pays on 65% of the base acres rather than on 85%. Certain situations, though, where ARC Individual may work is if you have one farm that has extreme yield variability. That might be the case of bottomland that floods, and you have one crop on that FSA farm. So if we have a flooding situation and one crop is planted, most of the years we get pretty good yields, and then we get flooded out and close to zero yields. That might be a situation in which ARC Individual works. Again, though, there will be a lot of situations in which ARC County and PLC will likely make higher payments than ARC Individual.